Okay, so Florina, all right. So we have 17 people were killed, but the question remains that in this cross-examination that they weren't targeted because of their practicing religion, or Dr. Michael Brannon admitted they weren't targeted because of any racial bias. That they were shot. I won't say just shot. They were shot and killed in school, teachers, students alike. But if you're the defense and you lose this, do you try now to turn it around and say this is such a troubled kid who didn't have a chance in life, that his brain was hardwired bad from the beginning, that you save his life and you don't put him to death? And I don't use kid like in a loving way. I mean, I'm using like, you know, he's a young person, we're trying to save his life.
Yeah, he was only 19 years old at the time. He's 23 now. The question is this someone who's incorrigible? Is this someone who is just so evil and so terrible that he cannot be changed and therefore should be executed? I mean, in my opinion, this is exactly the type of case that the death penalty was designed for. Somebody who kills unprovoked innocent children in a school, a mass shooting. This is exactly what the death penalty was for. The question regarding swastikas, as Linda, you pointed out, is exactly right. Because this wasn't charged as a hate crime, because this was simply charged as multiple, 17 different homicides, and because he pled guilty to the homicides not as racially motivated, then those swastikas are not really relevant for purposes of motive. But what the prosecution is arguing is that they go to identity, to identify him. And so, because the shoe swastika matches the gun swastika, and the gun therefore belonged to him. But again, the defense can effectively argue identity here is not a question. He already pled guilty, and this is simply the penalty phase. And so if identity is not an issue, since he pled guilty, what this leaves is just the prejudicial value. And since it's the sentencing phase and we're talking about whether or not he should be executed, then the prejudicial value here is really high, and it would be dangerous to let this in. Or at least that would be the argument.
Probably framed better, I think, than the defense attorneys actually framed it that we heard this morning. But anyhow, let's go back into court and listen with my two attorneys here who argued for both sides. Let's listen.